Welcome in, nerds and nerdettes. It's been a while, thank you all for being patient, but it's time to get the videos caught up to the actual kit, which has advanced significantly from the point you're seeing in the video. It's actually complete at this point, and behind the scenes here I'm working on the base for the model, which is going to allow it to be displayed easier, and it will conceal the remainder of the electronics for the power supply. The reason the build has progressed so much beyond the videos is the due date on the group build, which has now passed. And yes, I made it in time by about 3.5 hours. So we were cutting it a little close, but I did actually get it submitted in time, which is great. You may have guessed at this point that the episode is focused on the gun turrets. The Lancaster has 3 turrets, one in the nose with 2 guns, one in the tail with 4 guns, and one in the upper middle position, also with 2 guns. The aircraft originally did have a ventral gun emplacement, but this was later phased out and removed due to negative feedback from the air crews on the practicality of the turret. They really didn't feel that it was worth having that station manned, and the defensive requirement wasn't really there to support having that extra turret. This, of course, is in stark contrast to the B-17, the B-24, and later the remote control turrets of the B-29. Also in contrast is the gun caliber. The Lancaster used a .303 Browning instead of the 50 caliber Brownings that we are used to on the American bombers. Some Lancasters were equipped with a 50 caliber Rose turret in the place of their Nash and Thompson turrets starting in late 1944. These turrets did have a really long development time frame though. They started looking for the Rose turret, well, what would become the Rose turret, in 1942. They were targeting to replace the aft turret with a 50 caliber turret and the mid-upper turret with a 20mm turret, which would have been crazy effective if they'd actually got it achieved. They did get the Rose turret fielded in 1944, but there just wasn't enough of them to go on all the aircraft. They weren't being produced fast enough. And Nash and Thompson also did make a 50 caliber turret eventually for the tail of the Lancaster, but it wasn't ready until later, and there are much fewer of those. I don't think that turret actually entered service during World War II. The kit parts for the guns all fit together fantastically. My only gripe here is that the depth of insertion in the gun barrels, or of the gun barrels into the gun moldings, deeper recesses do make it easier to get the gun barrel aligned with the actual gun. So while the HKM guns are fine, like they're buildable, there's nothing wrong with them, I would have preferred just a little bit more recess. But this is also something I find that I struggle with when building these things, so that's just my perspective. I would have liked to have recessed them a little bit more, and maybe it's better with the aftermarket gun barrels that you can purchase, but I was building the guns effectively straight out of the box. So that's kind of my only feedback. Everything else, they're very detailed. I did enjoy building them. They went together surprisingly quickly considering the number of parts, which hopefully that's not foreshadowing that the border Lancaster turrets are going to be a nightmare to put together. I bet they are, but we'll see one day, maybe in a couple of years. So anyway, everything else fit together really nicely, and I think it really solidifies the front and aft end of the kit. I always loved the rugged front end of the Lancaster, and the back end is just full utility business. You know, here's a gun turret with 4 guns poking straight out at you, even if they are only .303s. Additionally of note with the Lancaster, and comparing it to its contemporary aircraft such as the B-17, the fields of overlapping fire are significantly reduced. So on the one hand, we do have smaller guns on the Lancaster, but if you count them up, compared to like a B-17G model, the Lancaster has about 5 fewer guns than the Fortress. So when it comes to overlapping fire defensive fields for the squadrons, the Lancasters are putting down much fewer fields of fire from their gun turrets with much smaller ammunition. So the defensibility of the Lancaster was significantly lower than the Flying Fortress, which is kind of how the Flying Fortress got its name, right? It's just so much defensive armament on that aircraft. Regarding the painting of the turret glass and the canopy glass, which is also in this episode, because if I'm going to do one set of glass, I may do all of it in the same video, right? Edouard masks honestly are kind of a godsend for this kit, just because of how visible particularly the cockpit glass is. But the entire front of the aircraft, effectively, when you look at it head on, is just glass. It's the Bombardier's dome with the turret right above it, and then you've got this giant birdcage canopy going over the whole cockpit. So getting the Edouard masks was a fantastic decision, and honestly probably the best aftermarket purchase for this kit in my opinion.
One eternity later.
Edouard provides internal and external masks, which is really nice. The internal frame for the canopy, particularly, is a different color than the overcoated sections of the glass itself. So the framework of the glass on the exterior side is blended into the camouflage pattern of the aircraft. On the inside, it's a different color. So the kit tells you to paint it black. I've seen some that are green in reference images, but it looks like they're either green or they're black from the actual aircraft. So I stuck with black because there, to my knowledge, are no color photos of Lonesome Lola, and it's very hard to tell. So I stuck with black for the interior and then camouflage pattern the outside, and having those interior and exterior masks really helps. Well, it doesn't really help. It makes it possible to do this without a significant amount of knife and masking tape work. So I would definitely recommend the Edouard masks on top of all the photo etch recommendations, or the 3D printed decals, that I'd previously recommended in episodes 1 and 2. Lonesome Lola in the Operation Obviate configuration does not have a mid-upper turret installed, which is why in this video you will not see a mid-upper turret being built. The mid-upper turret could be removed from the Lancaster and replaced with a wooden plug, which reduced drag on the aircraft to increase the range. This was a necessary change made to the Lancasters of 9 and 617 squadrons on the Operations Obviate and Catechism to bomb Tirpitz in the Norwegian fjords. It was effectively the only way they could easily get enough range to get the Lancasters out of Scotland and make the round-trip mission to Norway to go drop their payloads. Thankfully, because HKM did this in a very cost-effective way for them, all the Lancaster kits that I'm aware of come with the mid-upper dorsal plug. So they've done that to kind of make a one-sprue-fits-all solution to all the different Lancaster kits they make. Since they also make a Dambusters version and a Grand Slam version, the Dambusters aircraft, the Type 464 Provisioning Mark IIIs that the Dambusters used, they didn't have mid-upper gun turrets either. So thankfully, because HKM has done this, it makes it really easy to go and take that mid-upper gun turret out of the aircraft. Just fill the holes in with a little bit of putty that would have mounted the fairing that goes around the mid-upper turret, and sand it smooth again. So that was a very nice inclusion. It was a lot less work for me to have to scan and 3D print a replacement part, so I very much appreciated it. Concerning the paint of the actual guns themselves, I started with some Mr. Surfacer 1500 black. Pretty much my primer of choice lately, although I will warn you, apparently Mr. Hobby, most of their sales are in Japan and they don't export a whole lot of 1500 black. So if, like me, you're in the US currently experiencing a drought of the bottled Mr. Surfacer 1500 black, and you are decanting from a aerosolized version of Mr. Surfacer 1500 black, some things to be aware of. A, as you decant the fluid or the paint, it is going to get very cold because you are releasing a pressurized gas into an unpressurized atmosphere. Well, relatively speaking. So, as a result of that, the temperature goes down. So, do not decant it into the bottle of, your empty bottle of Mr. Surfacer 1500 black or whatever you're using to store it for your airbrushing. Do not decant it and immediately seal it. You will either blow up your bottle as the temperature rises and the pressure of the air volume inside the bottle increases, or it will launch the lid at you the next time you unscrew it. So one of those two things is going to happen. You need to let it warm up before you seal it. That one did not happen to me. The one that did is you have to think of it like a paint soda or a paint pop or whatever you're going to call. We're not going to get into the semantics of what we call soda. Anyway, where I am in the US, it's soda. You're making a paint soda. And it's important to remember that, because the next time you take it off, if you have disturbed it or shaken it up, the carbon dioxide that is suspended and dissolved into the paint is going to release. And that's going to froth up the paint, exactly like if you shake up a soda and then pop the cap. That one did happen to me. Thankfully, nowhere in the vicinity of the painted Lancaster. So I ended up with my hands covered in it, part of my desk covered in it. It took a while to clean up. That's your warning if you're doing decanting of this paint. As we come to the end of the video here, just want to say a thank you for anyone who's stuck around. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and throw a subscribe out if you like, or say hi in the comments. If you've got questions about the build, feel free to post them. You can also find me on Instagram. You can also find me on Patreon. So, self-plug there. I always got to hit the like and subscribe button. But regardless, anyway, thank you for your patience, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next one as we start to do some fuselage assembly, and we'll start to get into some electronics. There's a little bit of a difference in Lonesome Lola versus the two B-17s. Not a huge amount, but a nice technological evolution, if you will. So we'll cover that here in the near future. Thanks everyone, I hope to see you in the next episode.